Hi, thanks for clicking on to the Taliesin Antique YouTube channel. Today I'm in Hay-on-Wye, a beautiful town on the border between England and Wales, and we're doing an antique shop tour, antique hunting of Hayes Antique Market. Now, it's an amazing town. We're here on a Thursday, which is a market day, and it's known as the world's first book town. There is loads of bookshops here. You wouldn't believe how many. They have festivals. It's an incredible place to come and visit. So I'll show you around the town and then we'll have a look at the antique shop. Okay, so here we are in Hay Antique Market, found right in the middle of the town. You will not be able to miss it. And they were very kind to allow me to film. I always check beforehand, make sure they're happy, they know who I am and what I'm doing. And they're open from 10 AM till 5 PM, Monday to Saturday. On a Sunday, 11 AM to 5 PM. So an amazing antique centre, which is open every day of the week. You can't ask for much more than that. I overheard one of the customers say when I was in there, if you're into your antique and vintage glass, this is the place to come, and they are absolutely spot on. You can see already all the amazing paperweights, bohemian, empoli, cranberry glass, all different types, and they're all sparkling, and they're all, they all got the light shining on them to really bring out their colour and their style. I thought that was a great sort of welcoming look when you come into the shop. This is a nice collection of old Tuptonware, which has a very similar style to the famous and sought after style of Moorcroft. But Moorcroft can be very expensive. Old Tuptonware has that look for a much more affordable price. Many people will recognise second shelf on the left there, the Mason's Ironstone Mandalay pattern. On the right you got Port Merion, quite a lot of that. And both of them are probably going to be mid 20th century, but they are very popular patterns which seem to have stayed in fashion for quite a long time. So, it's the sort of thing I still buy, even though it's not antique. I'll still buy it because I know there's a market for it. So large animal sculptures always grab my eye because some of them can be very valuable. So when it comes to tigers, particularly Italian pottery tigers from the mid 20th century, command hundreds of pounds. I think the one we just looked at was actually a Beswick one, but still a very nice piece. So I thought this teapot possibly could have been a Worcester porcelain teapot from the early 19th century. If it were, that would be a very nice find. I think just based on the gold paint around it, which was really finesse and looked like it was done more recently, that was probably a modern remake of that. Still very nice. I think a lovely selection of coloured glass again then in this room, and you need to take a closer look to know exactly what type of glass this is. It looks to me like a lot of it's going to be Bohemian, some of it may even be Murano from Italy, it could be from Florence as well. There's probably going to be some Chinese glass in there also. Down here you got this smoked glass, that's usually Danish or Swedish I believe. So you got a massive mix of different styles from different eras, and I think it's fair to say that a video tour like this is just going to be a flying visit. There's going to be many things that I haven't spotted or seen. If you were there and you had the time, you could spend hours in a place like this looking at every item that grabbed your eye and giving it the real attention it deserves. And of course, if there is anything I have missed that you've spotted and you like, please let me know, leave a comment below. It's always interesting to find out the things I've missed and I can then go and learn about. So the piece that I just focused on there with the green swirls and look like candlesticks, red with green swirls, I believe they're Bohemian, and when I say Bohemian I'm referring to what is now the Czech Republic, probably the 1930s, and I think they're known as tango glass. So very interesting little things them, and maybe they could have been a good pickup, but I missed them on the day. So the blue and white paperweight there with a bit of red, that looks like a Murano paperweight to me. A very good one. This is a Caithness paperweight, and I really like this arrangement with the white ground. Could have been a really good one. The difficulty you have with Caithness is that the values of the paperweights vary quite a lot. Now this one, I believe that CG sticker refers to it being a second, meaning there was a small fault when they were making it, which you probably wouldn't even notice if you look now, but they would have done when they made it, which makes it a little bit less valuable, but doesn't really affect it too much. So we've now gone into another room, and that's how the centre is set up. Dealers have their own rooms to, you get across the items they want to sell and the styles that they're interested in. And they were telling me when I was there that it was actually an old Tudor building, so a medieval building, and it was then expanded a bit further back also. So there's a lot of history just in the building itself, which makes it even more of a fascinating place to go and visit. Now this is a large Spanish ladro porcelain figure. I believe it's the water carrier by the looks of it. That would be a very valuable sculpture, probably from the 70s, 80s, and Ladro has gone down in price a little bit, but the big sculptures like that are still very popular. I believe this is a more modern version of a Dutch Delft cow figure. If you get an early 19th century or 18th century example, they're very rare. What we're looking at here now is a nail sea glass pipe. I believe that's early 1800s, and nail sea being from the Bristol region. This is a lovely Japanese Satsuma mini vase, like a bud vase. Definitely something I would be interested in buying, and I wish I kind of asked about that one. I must have forgotten about it. So you're seeing here a large collection of what are known as Toby jugs. On this shelf, Royal Dalton Toby character jugs. And the values of them will depend on the rarity. That's what it comes down to. There are a lot of collectors out there, and they will be looking to complete their collections, and the rarer ones will of course command the higher fees. Now I quite like that figure of Santa in the what is mainly a jewellery cabinet. Now jewellery is not something I have spent a lot of time focusing on. I'm currently trying to learn about it a bit more, usually just by buying and selling it and making mistakes. But for the time being, it's not something I'm commenting too much on because I don't know enough about it. This is a nice, probably Edwardian shop counterbell. It reminded me of one I have in my own shop actually, and I thought it was just a nice older one. So I thought I'd have a little play around with that, which is what's happening right now. So it seems a good time to ask you if you are enjoying the video, if you want to see more videos like this, more content around antiques especially. If you can help me out just by subscribing to the channel, free to do. You just click the button, and what that does is just give my channel a bit of a boost, show YouTube that people like the videos, and to keep promoting it. If you can do that, I would appreciate it. Now, without fail, in every antique shop I go into, you can see a pair of these Staffordshire Pottery dogs. They come in all shapes and sizes, all different styles, different colours. This pair seemed like a decent one to me, maybe a bit older than you usually get, and will possibly a good little pickup. Now, this is another Italian Murano glass paperweight. See all the different canes in different colours there, known as Millefiori. And you've got a nice gold speckled ground. That was a particularly good one, I think, and maybe I should have given that a bit more of a closer look at. So we're still on the ground floor, been to about four or maybe five of the rooms so far, and I'd say there's at least six, another six to see on the ground floor, and then you've got three or four upstairs as well. So there's plenty to see. In this room, amongst many other things, there is a collection of Empoli glass bottles. And these are from Italy. They come in different colours. Usually they're greens, I think is the most common, and then you've got these other colours which are a little less common. But they've got a good following. People do like them, and they like having different styles and arrangements. So this is actually more Portmeirion pottery, and there's quite a lot of Portmeirion in the centre, which just goes to show how popular it is as a style. On the walls, there's also a lot of these mid-century female portraits. There is the famous Chinese girl by Trechikov. I think I pronounced that correctly. People seem to say it all different ways, but I think that's the right way of saying it. But someone correct me if I got it wrong. So this is a Chinese porcelain teacup in a turquoise color. You can see made in China marked on the base. That means that it's going to be after the 1920s at best, although it's probably more likely to be mid 20th century. A nice selection of walking canes there, and that one had silver hallmarks, so it had a nice silver collar on it also. Now, I was saying that there is a lot of Portmeirion in the centre. If you're a fan, this is the place to come, and here is a great selection as well. Now, that with Portmeirion, there's different patterns, different styles, and again, some are going to be a lot rarer than others. By the looks of it there, and what I've seen in the centre, they've got quite a selection to choose from. Here are two candlesticks by Dalton Lambeth, so it's an earlier version of Royal Dalton. These are probably going to be around 1900s, and I do find the Dalton Lambeth, that is silicon ware, what we just saw, does have quite a decent following. Now these are more Dutch Delft pottery with the windmills, but they've got what is a traditionally a Chinese pattern called the prunus pattern. So they're quite interesting, those two. In this room there's a real mix of items that would take me a while to go through and look into each one. Plenty of interesting things to see. Something that particularly caught my eye is what we're about to see now, which is this glass hooker base is what it's known as. So things like this are interesting because this is actually going to be Bohemian, so again made in the Czech Republic, but it's made for the Middle East and it's used as a base of a shisha pipe. So the glass base would have been made, as I say, in the Czech Republic, then exported out to the Middle East, maybe Iran, you know, it could be Egypt, could be Syria, and then the metals around would have been added then. And now it's ended up in this shop in Hay-on-Wye. So things like that I find really fascinating. So this style on pottery is known as Gaudy Welsh, although almost none of it was actually made in Wales. I don't actually know the full story about why it's called that, but that's what it's known as. It's probably 19th century. Now, what's interesting about this is because it's an inkwell. Usually you get them as cups, teapots. I'd never seen one as an inkwell before, so I found that particularly interesting. As mentioned at the start, Hay-on-Wye prides itself on being a town for book lovers with loads of different bookshops, and they have a festival every year, and it attracts thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of visitors every year. So of course the antique shop is going to have a fair share of books to sell. Now I'm sure these are freaking a few people out, but that is quite a selection of different specimens there. So different insects preserved, I guess in paperweights or some sort of casing. You can have some people who buy this because they're genuinely interested in natural history, and I'm sure some people buy them just to terrify their friends and family. Here we have a very nice Japanese cloisonné vase. It's a bud vase, however there are two of them, and I did go ahead and buy these, and I will feature them in a whole video I do over the next couple of weeks. Now if you're interested in Chinese and Japanese cloisonné and you want to learn more about it, how to identify and how to date them, I have done a video on that previously, so just go back to my video history and you will find it. There's quite the face to see suddenly on your screen. However, that picture there is a Saragon Mine. I think that was right. It was French Majolica, I believe late 19th century, and they can be very popular and have a following. So don't just walk past them, they could be good little buys. So bear carvings like this one, wooden bear carvings, are generally thought to be Black Forest, made in Switzerland, but I believe these were actually from Japan. And just a reminder, because we are now, there's so much stuff to see that I'm not focusing in on many items individually because the video would just be far too long. So if you see anything at any point that you were quite interested in, you think is particularly rare, maybe unusual, maybe you just like it, then leave a comment, let me know. Write the timestamp of when you saw it. It's always interesting to see what people have spotted. Those two candlesticks there, which look like bronze, could be Chinese or Japanese, and I honestly didn't see them when I was filming. It's only now watching this that I spotted them, and they could have been particularly good ones. This is the second room upstairs. We were just in the first one. There's another one to come, so there's three in total, and then we go back downstairs, and there are still more rooms to see. So this isn't necessarily the biggest antique centre, but they have utilised the space they have extremely well, and it makes sure that when you are visiting, you're guaranteed to see new stuff and things that you hadn't spotted before. Now, if you are a reseller or a dealer, or maybe a bit of both, I meet people who buy things for themselves, but they do resell them occasionally. But what I would say is that, and if you're particularly looking for bargains, which a lot of people like to have, of course, then you should come to these antique centres as well. Not just consign yourself to charity shops or even just boot sales. You will find, particularly in comparison to charity shops, that antique centres can often give you a better deal. Now, it's either going to be because a dealer has, they have outright made a mistake with an item, or they're not particularly interested in selling certain types of item, but they pick them up on house clearances and stuff like that. So when they get them, they'll just try and move them on cheaply, or they got them so cheap themselves, they're happy to make a smaller, make a profit on them and sell them cheaper and move them on. So that would be my advice, is make sure you visit these places as well. You are very likely to pick up some items and make some good deals. Also, even if you don't, you're going to see a good selection of pieces and you are going to learn. There's nothing like learning from seeing things firsthand. There's only so much you can learn, even from books, certainly from just watching videos. So make sure you go and visit these places. Now, I had a comment on one of my other antique hunting videos where someone said, I believe it was a Japanese piece, they thought it was Gustav Klimt. Well, funnily enough, this one is. So in this third room upstairs, there is a large selection of records to pick through if you are interested in them. And there's also some nice vintage clothing. They're not areas that I focus in on, so I didn't spend much time looking at them, but just know they are there if they grab your interest. So we are now back downstairs, and there is this room which is just full of crystal and clear glass. There's going to be so much to pick through here. Who knows how old a lot of this is? I just didn't have the time to look at it all. But there's probably going to be glass in here which goes back to the 18th century, certainly the 19th century. There's such a massive selection. So what grabs my attention straight away in this cabinet is this little tea bowl. It is Chinese export porcelain from the Chenglong period. A nice little piece there. Also, this teapot you can just about see. Now, I did actually ask for a closer look at that because I thought maybe that's Chinese also. And it turned out the lid is Chinese and then the actual teapot is very early Worcester porcelain. This is an interesting Chinese painting on what is known as pith paper, so like rice paper, and it's showing all these interesting scenes of officials and soldiers, probably from the late 19th century, maybe earlier than that. There is a very large and what feels like growing market of collectors of bottles, whether it be early glass, stoneware bottles. This dealer, who had a large selection, was clearly very in tune with that market. So I didn't look at the items closely in terms of, making my own profit on them. But it was interesting to see the different types, and they did seem quite rare. So you are seeing my two little cloisonne vases. It's not a different pair. I just carried them around with me, of course, whilst I was filming. This is known as an armillary sphere, which was used in early astrology. We have here a Strathern glass paperweight, so again Scottish and probably from around the 80s. So this is the last room now I'm going to film in for Hay Antique Market. I would like to thank them for allowing me to film and make this video, and thank you for watching up to this point. I really do appreciate that. If you are willing to help me out a bit more, if you could subscribe to the channel, that would be great. Also liking the video and especially commenting, because I do appreciate and enjoy reading and hearing what your opinions are, and especially in a video like this on what I've missed. So thank you again. If you're interested, you can also visit my website, which is taliesinantiques.com. Thank you so much. The last word I'm going to give is just to say what a great quality antique centre you've got there. It's another little gem that I've managed to go and visit. And look, a video like this is only going to give you an overview of what's available. It's very well worth actually going to these places and spending some time and having a look around, because there are gems everywhere. A great little place, and I really enjoyed visiting.